Alright everyone, you might hear some windy noises. There's nothing to be done about it because it's harder for me to focus if the window is closed, so, fuck it anyway. We're going to talk about Huffington Post. This is a very happy story. Huffington Post has made 45 more people unemployed, most of whom, probably deserve it. And it's funny. Of course, they just got acquired by BuzzFeed, which is a slightly larger far-left missing link media firm. They absorbed Huffington Post. They bought it from Verizon, if I remember correctly. I'm wondering why they bothered. It's like, other than having a fucking website that happens to be the Huffington Post, what of value do you actually absorb in buying a company like that? It's like watching ICQ or AOL or some of those old firms, or Yahoo, turn into zombie companies and get traded over time from firm to firm, parent firm to parent firm. Anyway, first and foremost though, there will be a pinned comment if you're watching on YouTube. Keep in mind, this and another video will be on YouTube, but two of the videos that I make every day are on other sites. They're not on YouTube anymore. They're on Rumble, Odyssey, BitChute, and Dailymotion. By the way, quick update, BitChute links on Twitter appear to be sporadically being blocked again. For a while, they just made you click through a warning. Now they seem to be outright blocked. Well, our partners have determined that this site might be harmful. Harmful to the neoliberal establishment. Well, that's exactly why. It couldn't be all the documentaries that got kicked off of YouTube that now are fully searchable there. It has nothing to do with it. The Huffington Post downsizing in a considerable manner. This follows a trend that we've seen actually from both the lamestream and missing link media over the last few years. What's happened is that these groups have devolved into competing echo chambers where they're serving exactly the same kind of formerly just Trump derangement syndrome. That was half the stories on these sites. But now just general left-wing sputum. And the problem is you've got an overload, a plurality of MSM and missing link media content that delivers basically the same idea. You've only got a certain amount of people that actually want to live in a far-left echo chamber. The problem is, therefore, that you've got too much competition. The irony is that this isn't due to I'm sure that they'll ascribe it to the juggernaut of right-wing disinfo or something like that. It has nothing to do with that. That's the irony. The irony is it has to do with other left-wing sites outmaneuvering groups like Huffington Post. Now, you look back 10 years ago or something, and I can remember this because I was already making, getting news tips and stuff. 10 years ago, I fairly regularly would get links from places like BuzzFeed, Huffington Post, even Right Wing Watch, actually. I was actually a fan of theirs 10 years ago when they were going after the Pat Robertson Bushite evangelicals because that was the right thing to do. Now they've decided to predominantly target YouTube and stuff like that, which is the wrong thing to do. Silencing independent voices as opposed to going after multi-million-dollar grifters, a little bit of a different game. What's happened, though, is you've got a recongealing, I think, of the lamestream, like the legacy media, old school newsprint and TV media. They've recongealed, they're competing with one another for the same shrinking pool style audience, but they've still, because they have more resources, even if they're less efficient, they're squeezing the mollusk media, the missing link media, which I define as groups like Huffington Post that started out in the internet era. Basically, if it started in the early 2000s through now, but it is still a corporate, a traditionally styled effort, it's missing link media. It's more independent and more tech literate than so Fox News, which is basically cable era, the New York Times, which is newsprint era, pre-cable, something like that. It's more tech literate, but it can't. The problem is that it's the missing link, and it can't compete with either of its main competitive cores. They don't have the resources, the wealth, and the political connections of the New York Times or CNN or something like that on one hand, and they don't have the efficiency, the finesse, or the manpower of independent media, which literally is hundreds of thousands of people that aren't even necessarily even loosely associated in many cases, scattered across the world with webcams. That is extremely efficient. Small buy-in, large potential outcome, even if an individual, I don't think that there's any single independent content creator who's able to go toe-to-toe with the Huffington Post or BuzzFeed or something. The numbers that they get are considerably greater. But if you were to extrapolate, let's say that a missing link media firm has 100 employees. That would be an appropriate number, or even 50 employees. Divide the amount of attention by those employees, and then look at their expenses. Now take a similar number of independent creators, part-time, full-time, whatever. A podcaster here, a YouTuber there, someone who's big on alt tech over there. Take the same number of people and look at their audience, look at their expenditures. It's a totally different ballgame. So they can't compete on that end, and they don't have the resources of the true legacy media. There's nothing left but for them to lose. It's very, very funny, therefore, and I'm happy about this because keep in mind that the mollusk media is basically a vestigial early wave internet effort that no longer makes sense either. Much like traditional newsprint, which kills the trees so no leftist should like it. They still order the New York Times, I don't know why at this point. Much like those were largely embattled early on in the internet. The term legacy media coined in 1998 literally referred to firms that had a large presence of big corporations, especially media corporations, that didn't get online early enough. They were dragging their heels on even making any significant effort on having a website, and it caused problems for the entirety of the 2000s. They were completely wiped away. That missing link media, now in the wake of the 2000s, now that we're in the social media era, in the era of what you could call influencers, now they're getting washed away. This is why, by the way, just to all the creators out there, this is why I use alt tech. This is why I'm delving into crypto. Because that's the next big thing. It's going to wipe away a lot of the what you could call the new mainstream content creators doing news, politics, analysis, and so forth like I do, because they only used big tech. They said, well, I mean, I've got a 500,000 people follow me on YouTube. Why would I want to use Odyssey? Why would I need a Rumble page? What's this BitChute stuff about? Oh, I already make a 6-figure salary. I don't need to do anything with regards to cryptocurrency. I use Facebook. Yeah, Mines? Who cares about Mines? They're making a mistake, and I'm telling you, this will be considered sage advice in retrospect by a lot of unfortunate people 10 years from now. It'll be exactly the same thing. This is a cautionary message. It's already happened in our lifetime 3 times. Do you think it's not capable of happening again? Like the social media era with the big tech that exists now is the end-all be-all of technology? Look at the internet landscape again with like Yahoo and fucking Ask Jeeves and shit like that. The early wave internet, MySpace, early wave social media. They're all gone. Some of the most popular websites, some of the big juggernauts, they had enormous amounts of wealth, enormous amounts of... And the stock rose 10,000% this year. Sort of like what's happening with some of alt tech at the moment. They got crushed. And they were opposed by the same legacy media. The lamestream lambasted them, tried to get them censored, the same way that people are trying to censor alt tech, the same way half a decade ago they were trying to censor mainline social media that became now dominant, and now every company has bought into these firms. This is just a foreshock of a much larger paradigm shift to come. The mollusk media, I think, ultimately suffers the most because they're in that tech sense. They're not as efficient as decentralized individuals and sites. They're not doing that. And by the way, almost none of them have bought into any alt tech site despite having several years to do so. Big goddamn mistake. At the same time, they don't have the resources of their larger competitors. They can sort of hang on because they have a legacy brand. Literally the term legacy media. The fact that it is the New York Times gives it potentially at least some staying power because it's the New York Times. The Huffingtonpost doesn't have that ability. They don't have 1/10 of the employees. They don't have the skyscraper, and they're not on Times Square and so they couldn't afford the rent. They get bought up by BuzzFeed. How many times has AOL changed hands recently? Again, or all of these vestigial early wave sites. I think it's exciting. This is a symptom of things to come. Over the next half decade, you're going to see the transformation of the Internet of Everything in wild ways that you can't even comprehend. That change is inevitable in my mind. You're beginning to see the foreshocks of it now. The death of media firms, in this more traditionalistic sense. The rise of cryptocurrency. It's skyrocketing again. I would have said that it would probably go considerably down before it rose. It's being buoyed, and I think part of it is normie buy-ins. It's very exciting for people who hold cryptocurrency. Trust me, by the way, disclaimer, not official investment advice, just my own opinion. I wouldn't be selling it right now. That's just my feeling. As far as Huffingtonpost, I wouldn't, invest in them if you paid me. If you gave me money to invest, I'd be more likely to buy a pile of trash than to buy into the Huffington Post. And I find that hilarious. By the way, BuzzFeed, its parent company now, its slave masters, actually defaming me years ago. Remember, I got name dropped alongside Alex Jones, and I think BP Earthwatch was on that list too, as being like a far right, but also libertarian figure. Very interesting times indeed. Bye-bye, HuffPost. You should learn to code. Learn to sew masks, because, you know, those mandates, I guess, in some states, they're going to be around forever. You should move to California and become a mask baron. You could become very, very rich doing that. It's not even a joke. That's about all. Peace out.